Get ready for all the craziness of small business. It's exactly that craziness that makes it exciting and totally unbelievable. Small Business Radio is now on the air with your host, Barry Moltz.
Well, thanks for joining this week's radio show. Remember, this is the final word in small business. For those keeping track, this is now show number 577. This episode is provided by Nextiva, the all-in-one communications platform for your small business. It's also sponsored by LinkedIn, the place to generate leads, drive traffic, and build your brand awareness. For a free $100 credit to launch your campaign, go to www.linkedin.com/SBR. We're also sponsored by vCita, all you need to run your business in one software. Try for free at www.vcita.com. Use Barry10 for an exclusive discount. Well, getting funding and resources as a women or minority entrepreneur has always been difficult. My next guest aims to change all of that. Elizabeth Gore serves as the co-founder and president of Alice, which helps businesses launch and grow through a network of more than 100,000 companies in all 50 states and across the globe. Alice is building the largest community of business owners in the country while tracking data and trends to increase owner success rate. Previously, Elizabeth served as entrepreneur resident at Dell Technologies. Elizabeth, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be with you. And wow, you've done so many shows.
I have 12 years. 12 years. People always said to me, how do you have so many great sponsors for your show? I said, well, first you got to do the first 5 years with nobody listening. And they go, no, I just want to skip to the other part. So it's so great to have you back. Talk about your new venture. You're always doing such wonderful things to help entrepreneurs.
Oh, man. Well, we have to, right? They're the backbone of America. But yes, HelloAlice.com, we are so proud to serve what we call the new majority of business owners, collectively women, people of color, our U.S. veterans, entrepreneurs with disabilities. We're so proud that these are the folks who are growing businesses the fastest. And as you know more than anyone, we have 560,000 businesses launching per month right now in America. And our goal is to make sure that every business owner has access to capital, networks, and the resources they need on Alice.
So, Elizabeth, why is it so much more difficult for women and minorities to get these kinds of resources? Isn't it just equal for everybody?
Well, the issue is access. We are now, whether you're a woman or a person of color, starting businesses at such a high percentage. And I think systems and networks are catching up, frankly. And, if you look at sources of capital, for example, in venture, it's really in 3 geographies. I mean, it's certainly in other places, but if you're not in San Francisco, New York, Seattle, and other places, it's hard to access that. And traditionally, women are starting to build companies all over the country. Or you talk about our U.S. veterans, they're coming back to mostly the Midwest. I mean, in Texas alone, we've got 2,000 coming home per week. So if capital is not concentrated in those areas, we have to make sure that systems get to them. And then second is access to networks. Women in particular, we tend to keep our day job or our corporate job a lot longer. We generally also have child care, elder care on our plate. So the way that we work, the times that we work, the ability to network or go out to happy hours or go golfing or all these things are just different. So we have to create systems that are more applicable to the way individuals work for now and the future. But I'll tell you the great news is that when these individuals do get equal access to capital, they tend to match or outperform their white male counterparts. So this is a good news story.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because, women and minorities really start, as you said, businesses much more frequently than people that are not part of that group. And I believe they also work harder because they know this is really their chance.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to see someone who works their butts off, head into any small business, and all small business owners are working really hard. But I will say that whether it's unconscious bias or some of the hurdles I've mentioned, it does require sometimes twice the effort. I mean, even in our company, we're a Latina woman-owned company, and we closed the Series A financing this year, and it was just incredibly difficult. And we learned that only 2% of women are getting venture. If you're Latina, it's 0.001, and so but I am an optimist all the way, and I do believe that there are great organizations coming out. There are enterprise funds coming out very focused on these demographics. There are business services, and that's our job, to find all of those and make sure that we're putting them right there on your desktop every morning to find those opportunities.
So let's talk about your Series A round, because you did something very interesting, that you include a first-of-its-kind Me Too clause that holds investors accountable for discriminatory behavior. Talk about what that is and why it was so important to do that.
Absolutely. So we, as we were raising our A, we were pretty shocked by some of the behaviors of investors, board members, whether you look at Me Too incidents, financial mismanagement, race orientation issues. And we were surprised that legally, if an individual had that kind of behavior, they still had control of a company. And to us, for me, I always go at things from a profitability lens. If you have someone who's chairman of your board and they end up doing some kind of sexual assault or financial misgrievance or whatever that is, obviously that is going to lower your profitability. It's going to affect your brand. It's going to affect trust. It's going to affect employee morale. So to me, actually the data shows, not just me, that's lowering profitability. So we worked really hard in the state of California to put in a legally binding clause that showed if someone is prosecuted for that type of behavior, they do lose control. They're controlling shares. So we felt that was really important. We were proud to release that language on a piece on our healthwealth.com blog so anyone can use it. It was an expensive endeavor, so I hope somebody uses it, that's for sure. But our goal, again, is to always be looking out for our business owners, even if it's through our own practices at Atlas.
But this, Elizabeth, seemed to me that you actually made something that was difficult even more difficult. So it's difficult for women to get venture, and now you actually narrow the field, putting a Me Too clause on it. How was that received when you went out for venture in California?
Well, it's hard to look someone in the eye and say, do you perceive that someone on your board or someone is going to do this type of behavior? But when you start getting down to brass tacks and legalities around it, as a capitalist, everyone wants these companies to succeed. So I will tell you, I was really pleasantly surprised by the venture community. And as we were out pitching, this was a no-brainer to a lot of folks. We had very few people shy away from it. And again, this is not just Me Too. It's financial misgivings, it's, race issues. And frankly, it's not that hard not to be an F. And if you kind of put that up front, I think that it puts people on their best behavior. And it is forward-looking, and it's profitable, and it's the way we should work.
So why would venture companies want to put this at risk? Because in the early 2000s, when I was an angel investor, there was this old joke that said that any rights that you have left in the agreement with a venture firm is really just a typographical error. Why would they want to give you any rights in this area? Is it because they also believe that the time has really come, that we've really got to change the behavior and this was important to get behind?
Yeah, but I'll tell you what was interesting is I found that a lot of LPs at venture funds, as well as managing partners, are trying to figure out how to better train their fund managers, whether it's their behavior, whether it is ensuring they're being proactive. And this actually helped many of them put an extra layer of accountability in. And the reason that's important is the amount of legal issues that these VCs have gone through for the behavior of their employees. they don't want to do that either, right? And so it brought joint accountability, and I was pleasantly surprised that I heard that a lot.
I think that's great to hear. Now, you're also working with a lot of other significant companies like Bumble and PepsiCo and MasterCard and Salesforce. What are they doing to help entrepreneurs out in its relation to Hello Alice?
Absolutely. So we're very proud to have a lot of enterprise customers utilizing Alice. And whether it is Chase Bank or MasterCard or so on, are really trying to get their services in the hands of this broader group, whether, again, we're talking about women or people of color or vets or folks in smaller towns. So they're utilizing Alice to better access these owners, which is really exciting. On the other side, Bumble, PepsiCo, L'Oreal, many of them have innovation funds that they're running. And they're trying to find the next best business owner who they might acquire, who they might learn from, innovate with, or they might lift up within their own, let's say, supplier diversity program. So again, Alice has become a major conduit for enterprise, other business services, innovation funds, or co-marketing campaigns for small business owners.
So you're also working with one of my favorite people in the world, Ramon Ray. He's your entrepreneur in resident. Tell us how Ramon is going to be helping you out and bringing his electric energy to this venture.
Oh, my gosh. I got to drink 6 cups of coffee before I talk to Ramon. He's so great. Well, we're really proud at Alice to be at the size where we wanted to ensure we consistently innovate as well as a company. And I was very proud to be the entrepreneur in residence at Dell previously and really like the model of bringing outside in. So how are we continuing to learn from the outside world inside our company? And so we felt like it was time for us to have an entrepreneur in residence. And Ramon was literally the first person I thought of because he really understands the cross-section of what small business owners need, how time poor and busy they are. So you have to get them information with energy and concise and focused. But then also, he's very inspiring, and we all need that in our lives. We need someone to say, you're doing great, keep going, this is hard, but you can rock it. And that's really Ramon.
Now, through your website, are people going to be able to make personal connections, either with other entrepreneurs or with these types of resources that can help them out?
Yes. So when you log on to helloelse.com, we ask a lot of questions. We ask your stage of growth, your physical location, your industry. We also ask your gender, your ethnicity, are you a veteran, a military spouse? Because then through our meta tagging and machine learning, we ensure that you're getting the most precise information for your business. But additionally, you can create a company profile, and that allows you to actually market yourself on Alice. And if you agree, there's a toggle on your profile to say, yes, I want to receive introductions. People can search for you, whether it's by name, or they can say, I'm really looking for another person in the food industry in Detroit who is African-American. And that person will pop up. Alice will send an email and say, would you like to meet this other individual so that, we protect people's privacy, and then you get connected. It's a great way for people to also do business when they say, I'm an accountant, I'm in Houston, and I'm available for business, so on and so forth. So it's a real network, which we're very proud of.
So I noticed that on your website you have ecosystems, right? Tell us about the ecosystems and why you don't have one in Chicago.
Well, let's do it.
Let's do it. Glad to help out.
So we're really proud that there are what I would call clusters of individuals who want to dialogue on the day-to-day. And so we support, to your point, ecosystems. Maybe they're industry-specific, maybe they're demographic. So we host the Black Female Founder ecosystem, for example. We host Big Omaha. We have a big one in Houston. And then we have, again, industry focus. So we have a community for companies that are combating climate change. So these are self-selected communities that want to consistently throughout the day share ideas constantly with each other, opportunities, and so on. But also, we offer our services for free, obviously for our owners, but also for any nonprofits or chambers of commerce that are working. So Bunker Labs for Veterans, that I'm a huge fan of in Chicago, for example. The National Hispanic Chamber, they're utilizing Alice as well to help manage and support their owners.
Well, I want to encourage everyone to sign up. And where can they do it, Elizabeth?
Absolutely. HelloAlice.com. We want to help as many business owners as we can. Pretty soon, we're going to be launching a very special campaign called Business for All, where you can apply for grants for your business, non-equity small business grants, which we all need. And please join us. We can't wait to meet you.
Elizabeth, thanks so much for joining us again. Always love to follow what you're doing next. This is AM 820 WCPT in Chicago. We'll be right back. Time and place is everything, especially when it comes to marketing. But in today's age of 1 million messages per minute and not enough hours in a day, how do you really catch people's attention? Fortunately, there's a simple way. LinkedIn can help you speak to the right professionals at the right time. With over 62 million decision makers on LinkedIn, you're able to connect with the right business leaders who are relevant to your company. And with LinkedIn ads, you can make sure your messages are getting through to these relevant people. Even small businesses are making the most of LinkedIn ads. They're using LinkedIn to get their voices heard and their messages to resonate with the audience. It's not just about awareness either. LinkedIn ads are driving traffic and engagement, whether that's visits to a landing page, registrations to an event, or downloads of that thought leadership piece. Because with precise targeting, small businesses can speak to the people that matter the most. At the end of the day, LinkedIn ads are helping smaller businesses get big results. Try it for yourself. LinkedIn is offering a free $100 LinkedIn ad credit to launch your first campaign. Simply go to www.linkedin.com/SBR. That's www.linkedin.com/SBR to claim your free $100 ad credit. Terms and conditions apply.
You've already upgraded your cell phone to a smart device, which lets you use the internet to be more productive on the go. But what about your desk phone? Nextiva is a smart business phone system in the cloud. With a simple setup through an internet connection, you can soon have access to your office communications wherever you are. Stay seamlessly connected with clients and stay more mobile than ever before with just one low monthly cost. Give your business more than just a basic desk phone. Visit Nextiva.com or call 800-799-0600 to learn more today. Nextiva. Simplifying your business communications.
Are you stuck? Is this the year you finally grow your business and make more money? During Barry's many years of running his own company, he had to deal with the challenges of a business that just wasn't going anywhere. It was a painful realization. His business had flatlined, and he had no idea how to breathe more life into it. It was especially difficult for Barry, since his customers were not getting the service he was so passionate about delivering. Second, he wasn't making any money. Finally, his business was sucking the life out of him. Do any of these sound familiar? Your sales won't budge in spite of your best efforts. You have few new leads for customers coming in, and existing customers are fading away. You're burned out and completely exhausted. It's no longer fun, and your family suffers as well. If you're one of the millions of small business owners facing these problems every year, Barry has the answer. Check out barrymoltz.com/unstuck to subscribe to his 6-part video series. That's Barry Moltz, MOLTZ.com/unstuck.
Stick around to get your small business unstuck. More of Small Business Radio with Barry Moltz, now on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Well, there are two words that I believe we don't hear enough of these days, especially out in the public world. It's empathy and compassion. And in small business, there are usually two characteristics that actually come after profit. But now Growing companies are learning that the customer experience is becoming the key element to attract and retain customers, and empathy and compassion are two things that it's all about. My next guest is Maria Ross. She's the founder of the brand consultancy Red Slice, who believes cash flow, creativity, and compassion are not mutually exclusive. Maria's authored multiple books, including the forthcoming The Empathy Edge, Harnessing the Value of Compassion as an Engine for Success. Maria understands the power of empathy on the brand and personal levels. In 2008, shortly after launching her business, she suffered a ruptured brain aneurysm that almost killed her, inspired her memoir, Rebooting My Brain. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, first, take us back to 2008 and that scary incident that happened to you.
Yeah, so like you said, I had just started my own business, and prime of health. I was 35 at the time, and active, and all that good stuff, and had some symptoms. Luckily enough, it wasn't an instant thing, but I had some symptoms over the course of 2 months, and then one day just collapsed on my bathroom floor, unconscious. Luckily, my husband was home when that happened, and I had a ruptured brain aneurysm that had been undetected. And I spent 6 weeks in the hospital, many more in group rehab and home rehab, and had to just reboot my life, basically, and change the way that I work. I had to adapt to some cognitive issues that resulted from the brain injury. But I learned so much in that experience that impacted my work, because while I was in the hospital, it was an amazing experience, which you don't often hear people say when they've been in a hospital. But I
usually amazing experience and being in the hospital are mutually exclusive.
Exactly. That is usually mutually exclusive. But it was sort of after the fact. It was such an amazing experience that I ended up volunteering for the hospital as a patient advisor and being the voice of the patient. And what I came to learn was a lot of their policies and regulations that were operationalized were due to this initiative called Patient and Family-Centered Care. And what that is it's something globally in healthcare where, shocking, they put the patient and their caregivers at the center of the experience. And so little things like being able to choose what you wanted to eat every day, or no visiting hours, or being able to find help from anyone at any time, even if that wasn't their job. Those made the experience so wonderful and made me want to give back. But what I learned later was that was actually an initiative based on empathy, and quite frankly, meant to impact the bottom line. And that's where I first saw the power of empathy, not just as something good and right and moral that we all think is great, but something that can impact a business positively, and also how an organization can operationalize it and not just rely on hiring a bunch of really nice people. So that was sort of my first entree into what's this little secret of success going on here? And then I spent 3 years researching for the book, The Empathy Edge, and seeing that some of the most successful companies and brands we know, some of the most successful cultures are rooted in empathy, but not just talking about it, actually operationalizing it, hiring for it, rewarding for it, having accountability structures for it, and putting customer policies and procedures in place. So my work with small to mid-sized businesses, it holds true as well. And I included big companies and solopreneur companies in the book, because it doesn't matter how big you are or how many resources you have.
This subject is so interesting to me because every day we see the public rhetoric is all about hate and division. Why have businesses taken a different approach and not done hate and division, and they've gone more towards empathy and compassion?
Well, I think the reason we're hearing about this more and more recently, a couple of drivers. Number one, the younger talent generations entering the workforce, millennials and Gen Z, they're demanding this kind of workplace and environment. They are more loyal to brands that care about the world, that show empathy, that treat their employees empathetically, but also as talent, they are demanding a workplace. I think over one study I found over 70% of millennials want their workplace to feel like a second family. And that was not something I ever looked at when I was leaving college, right? But they're brave enough to say, look, hey, we're spending the bulk of our time at work. We want it to be a good, nurturing place. We want to treat people kindly, because quite frankly, if we want a more empathetic world, we've got to start experimenting with strengthening that muscle in the place where we spend the bulk of our time. So that's one reason. The other reason is, as I curated in the book, the data and the research is out there now, that this is not just this fluffy, nice to have, we need to worry about revenue, we need to worry about customer loyalty. It all impacts that. And some of the most successful brands are successful because of their empathetic mindset and their empathetic policies. So, now people can't argue with you, right? Now they're like, oh, okay, there's the data.
Well, they can still argue with you. There's always been the data, right? That happens.
Yeah.
So Maria, how do I, if I'm a small business owner and I want my company to be more empathetic and compassionate, how do I first cultivate a more empathetic brand?
Well, actually, you don't start with the brand, because that's actually the last thing you do. You have to start internally. A good brand starts from the inside out. And so in order for you to have an empathetic brand and walk the talk, you've got to engineer your business and your culture internally so that you can actually deliver on that brand promise in the world. So that's actually the mistake a lot of business owners make, is sort of like, how do I put this coat of brand paint on my business and make it stick?
How can I put lipstick on a pig?
I'm empathetic. Exactly, right? And so those are going to be one-hit wonders. It's not going to be genuine. But what are you doing internally? Are you aligning? Is everyone aligned on mission and values? Are there internal policies or practices in place to foster empathy? Are you building a safe and trusting environment? If your employees are fearful and don't feel like they are seen, heard, and understood, that's going to be reflected in the customer experience that they deliver. So what are you doing internally to help open collaboration and give people the flexibility to take risks and make mistakes and, keep it so that they're not so busy watching their backs, that they're actually innovating and taking care of your customers? And of course, are you hiring right? Like, are you just hiring to the resume, or are you actually looking at emotional intelligence? Are you asking some key questions to get to what are their interpersonal relationships like? How do they deal with people who disagree with them? How do they collaborate? Instead of doing these cursory checks with their references about, did you like working with them? Dig in. How did they deal with if there was a contentious situation and people disagreed? How did they deal with taking on another person's perspective? So digging deep and creating that culture internally and that mindset and putting those policies, rewards, and accountability in place, because you can't operationalize this stuff, so you make it really easy for people to default to the decision you want them to make. Then you can start going, okay, we can now deliver this promise authentically to the world. And now you can look at your customer service policies, your technologies. What are you doing to ensure that you are giving them the best experience from their point of view? Not the experience you think they should have, but the experience that they want.
So Maria, what are some concrete things? Where can I get started if I really want to have a more empathetic and compassionate company? Because I do believe, A, it's the right thing to do, and B, it'll make me more money.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has to start with yourself. It has to start at the individual level, as I said. So a few practices that people can do, a few exercises, if you will, to strengthen their empathy muscle. There's several listed in the book. I think I have about 7 or 8, and I go into detail on that. But let's just talk about maybe the top 2, is that you have to practice presence. And that sounds woo-woo, and that sounds like I don't have time for that. But every interaction you go into can either make or break your success. And so it's on you to take a moment and ground yourself in what your intent is, what you're trying to do, get rid of your self-doubt, whatever you need to sort of take that step back and not go into situations with your customers or your employees where it's, here's why I'm going to tell them I'm right and they're wrong. So what do you do to get that presence? Some people do meditate, some people knit, some people go for a walk, some people just sit in silence with a cup of coffee every morning for 5 or 10 minutes, or even before a meeting, taking a couple of deep breaths. It does wonders to open up your mind so that you're able to have room to take on someone else's point of view and understand where they're coming from. And number 2 is, in those situations, whether with customers or employees, it's kind of a combination of being curious and practicing active listening. So curiosity is the number 1 trait of empathetic people. And again, instead of going in with that, I'm right, you're wrong, here's where I'm going to tell you what we need to do, when there's a difference of opinion, when someone's coming up with new ideas, when a customer's coming to you with a complaint, don't get defensive. Don't be about cramming your point of view on them, but ask questions. Become an investigative journalist. Why do you feel that way? Tell me exactly what happened. How do you see success? What would you like the outcome of this to be? And as you start to ask them questions so they can express themselves, it diffuses the situation. So you start, again, it's trite, but you become a model for success. And as you are successful and you are acting in these empathetic ways and you're strengthening that empathy muscle, number one, that's going to reflect in the culture because people are going to go, oh, wow, the boss is doing that. That's how you find success in this organization. It's not about stabbing people in the back. It's not about treating customers badly. So you've got to start there. You've got to start at that individual level, and then you can ripple out into things you can do with the culture and things you can do with the brand.
I think this is really important because it's very much like your customers, right? Most customers, especially when they have some kind of issue, they really just want to be listened to. They just want to have some empathy and compassion, even if there isn't a solution. And with our people that work with us, if we just listen, I think, Maria, you're right, it goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another thing we should mention is that let's be very clear that empathy is about a perspective and a mindset. It's not about caving in to unreasonable demands. It's not about just giving people what they want. Quite frankly, it's not even about being nice. It's about how do you take on someone's point of view? How do you see things from their perspective? And the important part, then what is the action that informs? What's the action that you take? Usually that results in a compassionate action. But this is not about just giving angry customers what they want, but exactly what you said. It's giving them the space to be listened to feel heard. Some of my most empathetic customer service experiences as a consumer, might not have resulted in exactly what I thought it was going to result in. But in the way that the person treated me, I'm still loyal to the brand. I still feel like my input was important. One of the worst customer service experiences I had was with an online retailer. And they sent emails back to me that had, scripted responses in each one that were supposed to fake empathy.
Right,
like,
exactly.
We're really sorry you had that experience, right? And that was in every email that the person sent. And then the person started blaming me for what went wrong. Well, you filled out the form wrong, or you did this. That is never what you want to do with a customer.
Absolutely.
Even if that is the case, right? So how do you make them feel that you are on their side?
So, Maria, the last question I want to ask you, how does technology affect this equation of empathy and compassion in the workplace?
Well, I think technology as an enabler can go a long way. I spoke to some folks for the book, especially where I was talking about building empathy in a remote working environment. And obviously doing things like using video conferencing and being able to see people's faces and spaces is really important to building a connection and seeing what's going on for people. But also being able to use collaboration channels like Slack, where remote workers or people that maybe are more introverted can still be part of what's going on in the organization. So that's a wonderful thing. Many companies have Slack channels for actual work and then also for fun stuff like movies or hobbies or vacation photos or whatever. And it really helps people get to know each other because the idea is to get to know someone so you understand their context. And technology can enable you to do that. Secondly, from a customer point of view, if you're only communicating with your customers via email or via a website, there's still room for empathy in there. There's still room for hiring the right humans behind the email to be able to adjust in the situation and provide a resolution that is what that customer is looking for and what that customer needs in the moment. So technology can foster empathy. It can also amplify very quickly a lack of empathy. So you just need to sort of like wield these tools carefully. But there's lots of opportunities to create connections with people you're not meeting face-to-face, with remote workers, with customers that are far away. It's having that perspective of everything that you write and everything that you do, how is this going to impact the person I'm sending this to or talking to? Like, how are they seeing the world?
Maria, I think this is such an important message for small business owners to listen to, because we all get caught up in the money and the profit and things like that. And we have to realize that if we can just really show empathy and compassion, and by the way, you really got to care. You just can't show it, right? It can really go.
It's got to be genuine.
It's got to be genuine.
Yeah.
Maria, where can people reach you and learn about what you're doing?
Well, my main hub is red-slice.com, and people can find all the socials are there. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook /RedSlice, all that great stuff. And then they can also learn more about the book there as well.
Thanks so much for being on the show. This is AM 820 WCPT in Chicago. We'll be right back. Tune in regularly to my show, then you know that I talk to many different businesses across the country, different types of people, different backgrounds, all kinds of industries. But there's one thing that unites all of us, searching that thing known as work-life balance. I get pretty bummed out when a listener tells me that they haven't been home for dinner in a whole month. That's why I'm so excited to introduce you to vCita. vCita does a lot for one little application. It can help you achieve that lifestyle. vCita is that personal assistant on steroids you never had. It syncs your client information, appointments, and payments. vCita sends automated appointments and payment reminders, making sure your clients keep appointments and get paid on time. vCita understands today's consumer, making it easy for them to book an appointment and pay from literally anywhere. A website, Facebook, emails, even your Google My Business profile. It's also compatible with Google, Gmail, iCal, social media, and Square Payments. So get your free 14-day trial during which you can explore every single feature. Go to vCita.com. That's VCITA.com. No credit card required, no strings attached, no brainer. And when you're ready to buy, use promo code Barry10 to get 10% off.
With Barry's 25 years in small business, he has finally discovered the magic formula to make more profit at any company. Business gurus make it seem so complicated, but it is really simple. The formula is P times P equals P, where people multiplied by process means more profit. Learn how you can take a quantum leap in just 180 days to grow the profit in your business. Contact Barry at Maltz.com.
Thinking of starting your own business? Get on board for a crazy ride. Be the first to tweet Barry at Barry Maltz and get a free copy of his book, You Need to Be a Little Crazy, The Truth About Starting and Growing Your Own Business.
Stick around to get your small business unstuck. More of Small Business Radio with Barry Maltz, now on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Well, one of my clients always reminds me that perception is reality. My next guest emphasizes that it's not what you say, but it's what they hear. As a small business owner, how do you bridge that gap? Lee Hartley Carter is president of Maslansky and Partners, a language strategy firm. Lee oversees a diverse range of communication language strategy work for Fortune 100 and 500 companies. As a television news personality and researcher, she doesn't rely on traditional polling for unique insights into U.S. politics. Rather, she analyzes voters' emotional responses to help understand, empathize with them on a more visceral level. The reaction matters, but the why behind it matters even more, which allowed her to accurately predict the results of the 2016 presidential election. Lee, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So this is a frustrating thing for small business owners because they say something, but people hear something else. How do I bridge that gap?
You know, it happens all the time, whether it's in the way you're communicating about your business or the way you're communicating in your personal life. Oftentimes you'll say something and it lands just the wrong way, and you'll say something like, that's not what I meant. And we hear it all the time because you can say the same thing different ways and have a totally different outcome. And so what I tell my clients and what I tell people when they're trying to get their point across is don't start by what you want to say. Start by the reality of your target audience. So if you're a small business owner and you're trying to to sell your business in your community, what is the reality of the people that you're talking to? What's important to them? Really trying to understand why they feel the way they do, why they do what they do, and why they believe what they believe about you, your service, or your business. And if you start there by understanding what's going on with them, is this a service they need? Is this a service that they've never heard of? Is there something, what about it is going to disrupt their day enough that they're going to listen to you? You really have to start with that, and that's the first place. And it isn't until you really understand your target audience, who they are, and all of those different things about them before you should even set pen to paper about how you communicate about yourself.
So how do you actually, because everyone's got their own reality. I always say, and my wife hates this, that there is no truth outside yourself. How do you get into what their reality is?
There's a couple of things you can do. One, it depends how well you know them to start off with. If you're a small business owner and you're in your community and you know folks really, really well, talk to them about what they think about your service, about your offering, about your business, about what they need, about what they're thinking about it right off the bat, so that you can get a sense, not about what you think about it, because you have already seen the need, you're already sold on it. Other people aren't. So I really believe in the power of having conversations and being really, really curious about what it is that they think about it. What is the need? What is the way into the conversation that's going to make them say, I want that? And so it's really about opening up and being curious. And I don't think every small business owner out there is going to go hire a research firm to do it, but I think certainly you can have the conversations, and there's a lot of tools at your disposal that you can use to do your own kind of research, whether it's just using something like SurveyMonkey or Google surveys, where you can ask people different questions to understand what their current perception is of the thing that you're trying to offer them, so that you can get a baseline understanding of what's going on with them. If you're in something, if you're in a place where there's already a business that's doing what you're trying to do, how do you disrupt them? How do you change, how do you find your way in that's going to make them say, you know what, I should really give this other place a try rather than what I've always been doing? So it's all about talking to and understanding that other person, not starting with what you already know, because the reason that you started your business is very, very valid. What you know about yourself is all great, but until you find a way to connect with them, it's not going to matter. And it's really all about them. Like as your wife said, we always tell our clients that there's two truths. There's your truth and there's their truth. And the only one that matters is theirs. And so when you're a small business owner, that's the truth of it. You've got to find out what the truth is and the worldview is of your target audience, of your customers, so that you can really reach them and resonate with them in a way that's going to have an impact.
So you correctly predicted the outcome of the 2016 election. So in your opinion, do you think that Trump did this better than Hillary Clinton did?
There's no question about it. Whether you like the president or not, you remember what his message was in 2016. He talked about making America great again, and he said it over and over and over again. He had a few signature policies, not a ton. He talked about building a wall. He talked about getting tough on China. He talked about bringing jobs back to the U.S. He talked about tax reform. And he talked about health care. He talked about 5 things, and he repeated them over and over and over again. When I talk to folks now about what they remember about Hillary Clinton, if you ask what her slogan was, what was she going to do for you, most people don't remember. Her actual official campaign slogan was Hillary for America. Some people remember Better Together, but they don't remember what it was that she was going to, that she was offering the country. And she listed over 100 policies on her website about what she was going to offer. It started with Alzheimer's, and it scrolled all the way down for pages, all the way down to the letter Z. And while that is important that she was experienced and had all the policies, it wasn't memorable. And one of the things that you want to remember when you're communicating to folks and you're trying to come up with a simple master narrative, a couple of points to support them, it's not just because it's simple, it's also because it's repeatable. So when you have somebody out there and you can say, you want to create an advocate or somebody that's going to be able to repeat your message for you, because word of mouth is one of the most powerful things that we have today. So, for example, if somebody were to say, why are you voting for Donald Trump? Someone would say, well, I believe he's going to make America great again, and he's going to do these other things. With Hillary Clinton, everybody would answer a different way, and that makes it much more difficult to get the kind of traction that you need. And it's very interesting right now, if you're watching the election today and what's going on with the Democratic field, there's very little messaging, there's very little traction on the side of what the candidates are going to do for you. Rather, most of them are focused on how they're going to beat Donald Trump. And that's also something that's really, really hard to find to resonate. You really want to find that simple, repeatable message that's going to create other advocates for you.
Oh, I disagree with you. I think that's a brilliant master message because I think you got half America that doesn't care who the nominee is. They just really want to defeat Trump. But I want to transition over to this master narrative for your small business because I think so many owners don't have a master narrative. When you say, hey, so what do we do at this company? What's this company about? Every employee will give a different answer. And I believe, just as what you're saying, Lee, you've got to have them all say the exact same thing.
That's right. You want to create as many ambassadors for your brand and your company as possible. And so when you have that one North Star, that one repeatable message, it's like creating an absolute spotlight that everyone's focused on the same thing. It creates employee engagement. It also creates much more interest in your company, a lot of people that are going to be talking about the same thing. If everybody's saying something different, what you have is like 1,000 points of light that are all going different directions.
I remember that 1,000 points of light, George Bush.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Not meaning it like that. But a lot of flickers where you're going to get some positive, you're going to get some positive points, but you're not going to get that whole floodlight that's all going in the same direction, so people are really going to see where you're going. So I think it's really important. It's something that people don't necessarily focus on. A lot of people will talk about all the different good things that they do, all of the great things they offer, rather than finding what is the one thing, what is your North Star that you're going to repeat over and over and over again.
So, Lee, why is it so difficult for small business owners to do that? Is because they want to accomplish so many things, or it's just that, they have a hard time narrowing it down?
I think it's often that you have a hard time narrowing it down. There's a famous quote, I think it was by Mark Twain, that said, if I had more time, I'd write a shorter memo.
Right.
And I think that's often the case.
That's true.
I also think we all know all of the great things about our business, all the great things about us. And so you want to tell everybody all of them rather than saying, what is the one thing that I want people to walk away from? I always tell folks, and I've heard this said before in other ways, that the most important decisions about you and your business are going to be made when you're not in the room. Somebody's going to be making the decision if they're going to use you versus somebody else, likely when you're not in the room. People are going to make a decision about what they think about your business, your restaurant, your services, often when you're not around. And so what's that one thing that you want them to remember that's going to make them say, you know what, I choose you over somebody else? And it's not that people, I often say that human beings are emotional beings that are occasionally rational, not rational beings that are occasionally emotional. And so we need to be able to find the thing that's going to reach people in that way, and that's going to stick in the moment that you want it to be the trigger, so that they're going to, they're going to say, I want to choose you.
So, Lee, how do you test out how persuasive your master narrative or your brand strategy is?
So what I recommend to folks, if you're not able to engage a research firm and you just want to find out for yourself, I would say we go through the process of identifying what are 3 to 5 different ways that you could introduce your business. Write them out, and then have conversations with people who would be in your target audience about what they hear when you say each one. So I'm going to give you a short description of what that business is. Now I'm going to ask the folks that might be representative of my target audience to say, so when I say that, what do you hear? What are your questions about my business? What's your first takeaway? What would you tell somebody else based on what you heard? What do you think of a business that would offer this? Ask them lots of questions. Don't make any judgments, because you're probably going to have your favorite one going in. It doesn't matter what your favorite one is. It only matters what theirs is. So you get really, really curious to try and understand what they're hearing. Write down all of their responses, and then evaluate them after you've had, a critical mass. So depending on the size of your audience, you might want to have 5 or 10 conversations with different folks about what they hear, and then make a decision about what's the one that's going to stick and be most resonant for you. Sometimes I've had people that have gone through the process, and at the end they haven't found the one that registers, but in so having these conversations, you might hear that there's something that you're having in the conversation that's triggering something in the audience's mind. And they'll repeat something back to you that might not have been your original message, and it's worthwhile to take that and maybe put that into your message. Because sometimes it's just hearing from somebody else how they process it that you might come up with a different idea. I'll give you an example, and this is with a bigger business, but we were doing research with consumers about a credit card. And it was a rewards card, and we were trying to talk about the benefits of the rewards card. We had all these different messages. We're asking them what they thought about it. Each one kind of left them bland. Most people are pretty satisfied with their rewards cards. They're not thinking about shopping for more. But when we started talking to them about some of the benefits of the cards, people kept saying, you know what, I like that. There's no hoops to jump through. And then we talked to somebody else. They'd say, I really like that card. There's no hoops to jump through. We talked to somebody else, and they said, that's what I'm looking for. I'm so tired of all the hoops I have to jump through to be able to use my points. So what we did is we said, you know what, none of the messages that we started with are the right ones, but it seems like this idea of hoops is what they need relief from. So we called it the No Hoops Rewards Card instead of calling it the Cash Rewards Card, and it totally changed perceptions. In the first quarter that they introduced a new language, it is 64% increase in sales.
Wow.
And that was really just based on listening to what the customer is saying, not necessarily what the bank wanted to say.
Wow.
And so sometimes in having these conversations, you're going to get something that you might not have expected, but that's awesome when that happens because you can use the language of your target audience rather than your own. And that sometimes can work better.
I think one of the most important points you made is that to listen if people are repeating something back to you. Like for me, my brand is the Unstuck Guy. And when people call me up for help, they go, you know, Barry, I'm really stuck. And when they say those words, you know that your brand message is getting through. And sometimes they say something totally opposite. When I do a presentation, I'm like, well, that's not what I was trying to say. But then I realize that's what they got. So it is very important to listen to see if it's really going to work.
Exactly right. When you are feeling, a lot of clients of mine will come back and say, if people only understood that what we're offering is X, Y, Z, or if they only understood this is what we do, if they only understood, well, I always say if they can't hear you, it's not their fault.
Right.
We've got to get the message right on our side so that they're hearing exactly what you want them to hear so that they'll do exactly what you want them to do.
Well, Lee, I really appreciate you being on the show. Where can people get your book, Persuasion, and get more insights into how to craft their message?
So you can get the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever major books, any of the major bookstores. It's called Persuasion, Convincing Others When Facts Don't Seem to Matter.
And a lot of that going on. So, Lee, thanks for joining the show. And I want to thank everyone for being on the show this week. I got to thank our sponsors, Nextiva, the all-in-one communications platform for your small business. I want to thank LinkedIn, the place to generate leads, drive traffic, and build your brand awareness. For a free $100 credit to launch your campaign, go to www.linkedin.com/SBR. Also want to thank our sponsor, Visita. All you need to do to run your business in one software. Try for free at www.visita.com. That's VCITA. And use the code Barry10 for an exclusive discount. Thanks to our incredible staff, our booking producer, Sarah Shaffrin, our in-studio producer, Devin Today, our marketing manager, Courtney Gilchrist. If you are serious about being more successful this year, you got to give me a call. It's 2020. My private line I set up just for you is 773-837-8250. Or you can email me at barry@moltz.com. Remember, love everyone, trust a few, and paddle your own canoe. Have a profitable and passionate week.
You can find Barry Moltz on the web at barrymoltz.com or more episodes of Small Business Radio at smallbizradioshow.com.